Have you ever stepped into a dark, empty building and felt eyes on you? You tell yourself it's just your imagination. Nobody's there. But what if you're wrong? What if something is watching and waiting? This story isn't just about fear. It's about the moment you realize you're not alone and there's no escape. The perfect job, or so it seemed. Alex Jennings wasn't picky. After 6 months of unemployment, he would have taken anything to keep the lights on and food in the fridge. When the job at Crestview Mall came up, it felt like a lifeline. Night watchman, £15 an hour. Easy work, the listing read. He didn't even think twice. It was just patrolling an empty mall, right? He could stream music on his phone, sip coffee, and count the hours until dawn. Nothing to it. The mall, once a bustling hotspot in the 90s, had fallen into decay. Most shops had closed, their windows boarded up, and the halls were eerily quiet. The management kept it open during the day for the few stores that remained. But at night, it was a graveyard. Alex stepped into the mall on his first shift with a thermos of coffee and a flashlight. The air inside felt heavy, almost as if it resisted his presence. He brushed it off. It was just nerves. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows seemed a little too dark. The footsteps. By midnight, Alex had settled into the security office, a dingy room filled with outdated monitors and the faint smell of mildew. Most of the cameras flickered with static, showing only glimpses of empty corridors. Then he heard it. Footsteps. They were faint, coming from the direction of the food court. Alex grabbed his flashlight and stepped out into the hallway. The sound grew louder as he walked, echoing through the vast emptiness of the mall. "Hello?" he called out, his voice shaky. No response. But when he reached the food court, he saw them, wet footprints leading across the tiles and disappearing into the darkness.
Are you scared?
The shadow figure. Determined not to let his imagination get the better of him, Alex arrived for his second shift with headphones and a playlist of his favorite songs. If the mall was going to be creepy, he'd drown it out with music. But just past midnight, something on the monitors caught his eye. A tall, dark figure stood motionless in the corridor outside a boarded-up toy shop. Alex froze. He stared at the screen, willing the figure to move, to reveal itself as a trick of the light. But it didn't move. It didn't do anything at all. Heart pounding, he bolted out of the office and down the hall. When he reached the toy shop, the corridor was empty. But he felt it, that heavy, oppressive feeling of being watched. He glanced behind him and swore he saw a shadow dart around the corner. By his third night, Alex couldn't deny it anymore. Something was wrong with this place. Around 3 a.m., as he patrolled near the old cinema, he heard it. A low, guttural growl that seemed to rumble from deep within the walls. He spun around, flashlight in hand, but saw nothing. "Who's there?" he shouted, his voice echoing. The growl grew louder, vibrating through the air. Then, the lights in the corridor flickered, and Alex's flashlight cut out. In the darkness, he felt something cold brush against his arm. He stumbled backward, heart racing, and when his flashlight flickered back on, he was alone, or so it seemed. On his night off, Alex couldn't let it go. He searched for anything he could find about the mall's history. What he uncovered made his blood run cold. In the late 1980s, a man named Samuel Turner had been the mall's night watchman. One night, during a break-in, he was attacked by thieves who panicked and locked him in a forgotten maintenance room. By the time anyone found him, he was long dead, his body twisted in agony. Rumors swirled for years. Staff whispered about strange noises and sightings, and more than one guard quit after experiencing something they couldn't explain. Alex felt a chill as he read the final line of an old article. Samuel Turner never left Crestview Mall. A reckoning determined to confront whatever haunted the mall, Alex arrived for his next shift, armed with a Bible, a flashlight, and a shaky sense of courage. "Samuel!" he called into the empty halls. "I know what happened to you. I'm sorry, but you don't belong here anymore. You need to move on." The air turned icy. The lights overhead flickered, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move on their own. Then he heard it. A whisper. "You can't save me." Alex turned, and there he was, Samuel Turner. His gaunt, pale face twisted in anger, his eyes hollow and black. He stood at the far end of the hall, but as Alex watched in horror, Samuel began to move closer. The whispers turned into a deafening roar. The air grew so cold that Alex's breath came out in white puffs. "Leave me alone!" Alex screamed, backing into the wall. Samuel reached out, his icy fingers brushing Alex's arm. The pain was unbearable, like fire and frost all at once. Alex collapsed, and everything went dark. The aftermath. When the morning staff arrived, they found the security office in disarray. Alex's flashlight lay on the floor, its beam flickering weakly. Alex himself was gone. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. But if you visit Crestview Mall at night, some say you can hear his voice echoing through the halls, calling for help. What would you do if you were Alex? Would you have confronted Samuel? Or would you have walked away, leaving the past to its ghosts? Do you ever feel like someone is watching you, even when you're alone? If this story left you on edge, there's more where it came from. Subscribe to Shadow Stories for weekly tales that will keep you up at night. Have you experienced something unexplainable? Share your story in the comments. You might inspire our next terrifying video. Subscribe, watch, fear the shadows.